our Nieuport 1600 by Victus Magazine War Game. We're starting turn 3, and again the base I don't know about base, but the historical scenario, last 10 turns. So at the end of the last turn, the Spanish did lose another unit routing off the board, which I'm okay with, by the way. So far I'm okay with. I mean, 1 or 2 turns, 3 at the most, these cavalry units are off the board after they've broken, and so they count for victory points. Again, so far that doesn't bother me too much. Okay, so the start of the turn. Oh, one more thing before I get started. I have probably been, I think, again, I'm not certain, I think I've been drastically under playing close combat, because, and here's why, I don't remember any details. I don't know if this has happened or not, but if one side, I mean, if for example, if the Spanish, make sure so for example, if the Spanish choose not to do close combat here, that gives the Dutch the option to do close combat. So I think I'm drastically underestimating the close combat potential here. But I guess we'll see now. I'll try to pay more attention to this. Okay. For the initiative for the turn, we now have a tie in orders. The Spanish have a charge and 2 march orders. The Dutch have a charge and 2 march orders. So that's equal. So then you go to, it says who has the better leader. I'm assuming they mean army commander. So Albert is a 1, but Maurice of Nassau is a 2. So initiative goes to the Dutch side. And I think I'm going to look at getting Fera, the advance guard, getting them back before they lose that this infantry unit with the wing commander. Okay, I feel like I got to go in order here so I don't miss anything too important. So Fera, I'm actually going to have him take a chance and try to survive one more turn here in the center, because if he leaves the charge order, these guys can move up, that infantry can move up, and we should have a lot of this infantry is going to move up, so we should have a lot of combat, which will hopefully allow, basically, if this infantry moves up, it might come to the rescue of Fera and his shaken infantry there. So that's that. So Fera is activated, but the first step is preemption. And Mendoza, opposite him, is going to try to get a jump on him. So Mendoza is going to try to preempt. So preempt, he has a march order. He has no command value, so it is 3 or less. And he rolls a 1. So Mendoza successfully preempts. That's wrong. Entente. So Fera is bypassed, and Mendoza gets to act first. So the very first thing that Mendoza tries to do is he tries to change his order. He has a march order. He needs to roll 4 or less to change to a charge order, and he rolls a 0. So successful. He's going on the offensive. So now he can move adjacent to the enemy, and he is going to fire with his artillery. He's going to fire with the artillery. He's going to move them up. But I also wonder if these, I don't see why they can't. I don't see why these musketeers can't just move past those guys. They will receive defensive fire, at least from them. That allows the tercio to move up. So I'll make sure, well, we'll see what happens here. So to catch up here, the artillery, which I flipped over, fired at the Dutch infantry and got lucky, caused them to go shaken. Then the Spanish mounted arquebusiers moved forward, survived the defensive fire, which was bad because it was defensive fire on cavalry -1 plus -2 for being shaken. But anyways, they did not succeed. Then the arquebusiers fired, and they rolled, well, they got a hit, and then the Dutch infantry there failed miserably their morale roll, so they are now broken. So flip that over. They're turned away. They move back 2 hexes, and they're like that. Oh my. If these arquebusiers have to advance, I guess they're going to be disordered. So there's that question. And then the other thing is that I want to move these musketeers up. The fire zone of infantry and cavalry includes the front 2 hexes and the 2 flank hexes. For artillery, their fire zone is only out their front hexes. But for infantry and cavalry, their fire zones are front and flank hexes. Meaning, when the musketeers move here, they are moving in the fire zone of this unit, however shaken they are. And obviously they're moving into the fire zone of that unit. Actually, I'll do that. Well, no, I need to figure out, do these guys have to advance? The other thing about this situation is that if these mounted arquebusiers have to advance, not only are they disordered for entering the dunes, but I believe that they take defensive fire from the Dutch infantry there for having enter a hex of its fire zone. Okay, I'm going to make a calling that the rules about mandatory advance applies to close combat but not to fire combat. So they will stay there. It's funny, because this unit has a movement allowance of 10 and they've only expended 3, 4, 5 points. I wonder if they can continue expending movement points in movement or even fire again. Fire costs 2 additional MP. A unit can only execute 1 offensive fire per turn. Okay, so never mind. So then, since they can only fire once, then I'll go with the rules that say you can fire and move, or move and fire, your choice, but you're not going to move, fire, and then move again. Okay. But that again that's an interpretation. Okay, so the musketeers are going to advance here. They did move. They entered a hex in the fire zone of this unit and this unit. These guys, of course, are in perfectly good order. Let's see about these guys. They were bypassed. That's the wing commander. They are shaken. Shaken, yeah. They can do defensive fire, but it's -2. Let me see if it's. I don't think it's anything else. It's just -2. Oh wait, that's fire. That's fire on the flank of the unit. So it's actually +1, so it's -1. And then, yeah. -1. Ooh, yeah, no, low is not good for fire, so 2 is, they miss. Good try though. Here, They're good order. They're not firing on the flank. Yeah. I need to check on something. Oh, 4. Okay, I think that's a hit, but no morale modification. Oh my. They fail. So they are disordered. What I'm glossing over is I don't think that they're in the dunes. They have a -1 to their fire roll. Now let's see. So I guess when the musketeers become disordered, they cannot fire now because again, this is I'm interpreting everything as I go. So they've used these 2 movement points to get up here. So they now no longer have MPs to fire, and so they don't. Afterwards, the Tercio moved up, and the Tercio moved into a fire zone of this unit again. And even though they're shaken, they rolled a 8, which is -2 for being shaken is 6, which is still 5 or more, which is what they need to get a hit. So, oh wait, that's a +1 morale check +1. So they're okay. 3 + 1 is 4, which is equal to or less than their morale. So the Tercio is okay. It takes the enemy fire. That's what can be misleading if I'm not paying attention. They get a hit, but a hit only does damage if the unit fails its morale test. Okay, so this is what I did. Move the Tercio up. Tercio survived defensive fire. Then I treated the Tercio for fire combat. I treated it as 2 separate T infantry units for fire, but I had them fire on the same target. So I rolled for 1 attack from this hex to this target, and rolled again from this hex to this target. I think I can do that. I mean, I know if there were 2 separate hexes that I could fire 1 to 1 and 1. I don't see why I can't fire one after the other to the same target. Then, because they moved once, they spent 1 to move forward, and they spent 2 to fire. By the way, I'm assuming that spending 2 movement points allows each of the half of the Tercio to fire. I'm not sure about that. And then, since they had 1 MP left over, I thought I would spend 1 MP for the +1 DRM. And again, I assumed that the +1 DRM would apply to both separate individual attacks. There's a lot of assumptions here. After all of that, the target failed. So they failed, which means that they are routed. I rolled twice for leader loss. There was no leader loss. So this unit is turned around, forced back to hexes. It is marked as routed. The leader stays with them, like that. And now here, could the Tercio advance? No, not with fire combat. I don't think. So that's what I did. I'm not sure that's all right. Okay, this was all rendered moot point because Mendoza did not successfully continue. But I was starting to get mixed up again because I wanted Mendoza to try to continue. But if he had successfully continued, if he had rolled a 1 instead of a 9, does that mean that some other commander like Temple could not have tried to preempt him? Because it says a wing that has successfully continued, that would have been Mendoza, may also be preempted. The problem is there's this separate statement, a preempting wing cannot be preempted. The point is, my point in my mind was, Mendoza was the preempting wing when he successfully preempted this commander, thus marking him bypassed. But is Mendoza still a preempting wing when he rolls for and let's say successfully continues? I guess that's the way to interpret it. But like I said, moot point because he rolled a 9, so he did not successfully continue. So he's done, and that means that the bypass, where is it? The wing that has been preempted is marked bypassed and will be activated immediately after the preempting wing is finished. So we know that the Dutch Vanguard is going next.